What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the Last Flight Show. I'm your host, Jake Klein. Already started. Joining me today are the owners of Last Flight Calls, Matt Hicks and Zach. Zach has been on one podcast, and if you remember on the last episode, we talked about the podcast at the indie show that was an epic fail. That was the podcast that Zach was part of. So this will be the first time Zach will be on an episode that will actually post.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Are you excited?
Yeah, it's my third one now, so.
I mean, it's,
Right?
all right, so we're
Hopefully this is recording.
it is recording.
Well, I don't
Is
know.
that recording?
They're both recording.
All right. Well, I don't know anymore.
Time will tell. We'll see.
All right, so what we're going to start off with is we're going to do recap of the Columbus show. On the last episode, we kind of recapped the indie show. So on this one, we're going to do the Columbus show, which was a pretty good turnout. Zach wasn't there, so just me, Matt, Eric, and PJ. But we had a pretty good show.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't bad. I mean, it was probably one of the better ones. Was it not?
The Columbus show?
Yeah.
Sorry. I was reading these notes and I'm just like checked out.
Where?
Columbus show. Yeah, so Indy was our best show ever. Ever. But then historically Columbus has been, so I kind of figured rolling into Columbus might be the best show ever again.
Right.
And it was. So we still didn't have turkey calls to sell, just all waterfowl stuff. And just having it be our best show ever, was, I don't know, it's just awesome, I guess. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to bring out the turkey calls. I might show you later on here on video. I think I will. I ain't going to tell you when because you got to watch it till the end. Might do the 30-minute mark, 40-minute mark, the 2-hour mark. We'll see.
2 hours ain't happening.
Might forget.
But show's been good. Yeah, show season's been great. We got one more show up in Wisconsin, Dells, at the end of the month, last weekend of March. We have that, so come see us.
Next week.
Hoping to have a handful of these ready for you guys at that show. But we'll see. But
So is the Wisconsin show the last show of the year, or do you have more that you plan on
well, last show of the spring.
this spring?
Yep, and then we'll have 3 to 4 this fall. I'm
Yeah.
trying to add another one this fall. We usually do 3 in the fall, and then trying to add another one just because.
Right.
And yeah, man, it's been busy. Waterfowl call sales have slowed down, of course. It's March. Everybody's focused on turkeys. But the shows have been great. Everyone's turned out. If you've seen us in Columbus, you've seen the tent and the kind of got the whole new setup finally. Supposed to have that in Indy, and that didn't make it. So, yeah, it's nice to have that in, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's nice to have that. You know what I mean? So let's move on to the duck because we have a special guest that we want to get on here. But we got to take care of some things first. Let's
he's
move on. Let's move on to the duck. What you got going on with the duck?
Well, it ain't updating 5 days. So 5 days ago, he's still in the same spot he was for the last 3 months. Well, probably longer. I don't know. But he's just still down in Mexico City. So, I mean, probably 2 or 3 weeks out till he, starts moving.
Mm-hmm.
But the pintails on here, they have all, the one that went through Texas up to Oklahoma. Last I checked, he was in South Dakota, I think. Nope, Nebraska. So the last shot, she went from around Tulsa, Oklahoma, and now she's over in close to Grand Island, Nebraska. So she's making her way north slowly, kind of slower than I kind of imagined, but nonetheless on the move. So.
Yeah. And then we'll put a screenshot, just like we did on the last episode, put a screenshot of of her trail.
Did we put that up?
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
Yeah. We'll put a screenshot of the trail in which they're taken. But so now that we've got that out of the way, we're going to get into this episode. The topic of this episode is going to be photographing wild turkeys. And we've got Chris Heuvel on the phone, or on the laptop here. He's just kind of sitting by and waiting. But so Chris photographs waterfowl and wild turkeys, and this is kind of the time of the year where we start to see him transition from photographing waterfowl to the turkeys. So he's going to kind of take us through, a lot of the stuff that he does in the process. But before that, we're going to take a quick break while we get him on the phone, and then we'll jump right back into this. So do you guys have anything before we get the podcast started?
Yeah, I forgot to mention, we are an Apex dealer now, so if you need 12 gauge or 20 gauge number 9s for turkeys, we got them right here. Got them in-house here, so if you need something, you can come to the shop, pick them up, or just shoot me a message, and we can get them out to you.
Zach, you got anything before we start this thing?
That's it. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back with Chris.
Welcome to the Last Flight Show, brought to you by Last Flight Calls and Gear. This episode starts now.
All right, and we're back, and we have Chris on here with us. Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then just kind of where you're from, how you started photography, and then we'll go from there.
So, well, first off, how you guys doing today? Happy Friday.
Oh yeah.
My name's Chris Heuvel. I live up in Southwest Michigan, just outside of Grand Rapids. I have been into photography for going on 5 years now. Watched a handful of my buddies around local, taking pictures of us on hunts, and decided, I need a new challenge and wanted to give it a try. So picked up my first camera and started with wildlife photography. Bought a big lens, was shooting on DSLR for a while. That kind of opened the door, and then I met the man that's there to your left, Matt, and he kind of took me under his wing and kind of refined and turned me into the monster that I am today with cameras. So it's a fun release. It was just a new challenge that I was looking to take on. So
The machine.
Yeah, I was gonna say Matt's the reason for me in photography too. But so, what did you start off with? Like as far as like what did you start off with, Nikon or Canon DSLR?
Well, funny story about it. So right after I met Matt, I had a little point and shoot Kodak camera with a little zoom lens. And I was taking photos with that. And Matt, literally, he's honest to a fault. So of course he tells me it looks like crap and that I need better gear. So first camera that I took seriously with wildlife, I bought a 7D and a 7D Mark II from Canon and a Sigma 150 to 600. Those are my first serious setups.
Okay.
And then shot on DSLR with Canon for a little while, and then decided to make the switch to mirrorless, and Matt talked me into Sony.
Imagine
and
that.
I've had 4 or 5 different Sony cameras now.
It's the way to go, man.
Yeah. So what made you decide to pick up a camera? Did it start off as a hobby, or did you have anything in mind, like specifically, or?
I just wanted to extend my seasons, I mean,
Yep.
Obviously we're only hunting during the fall for waterfowl, especially, and into the winter. So I always, would look at birds on the return spring migration with binoculars and spot and scopes and stuff. And I just thought that'd be a great way to extend my season and get out, and it's a new challenge. So I took it upon myself to learn and kept asking Matt and bugging Matt for advice and tips and tricks. And one thing led to another, and here I am.
So you've been able to do what everybody wants to do, and that's take a hobby with photography and turn it into a career. How has that transition been from photographing just for fun to photographing as a career? Like, do you find it more stressful? I think, and Matt and I talked about this on a podcast a while back. But for you, has it been just as enjoyable? Do you find yourself feeling like you have to go out and photograph? Is it something that that you just feel like you have to do all the time?
So it's definitely more high octane than just going out and doing it for fun as a hobby. And it's transitioned more into lifestyle and product photography and shooting video more than anything. So if nothing else, I mean, just so I don't get overwhelmed or stressed or bored with it, I just always reserve taking bird photos for like my release and keep that part as my hobby. I mean, they still use my bird photos at work to put across social media and stuff, but That's
Right.
kind of my outlet. So it's transitioned a lot into lifestyle product and videography more than anything now.
Which you talk about at work. We didn't. We haven't said where he worked yet.
No,
So
we,
Chris just got a new job, and it's a pretty sweet gig. It's one that, like, if you're a photographer or videographer in the industry, it's something that you want to do, is have a job like Chris. He's working at Nexus now. Which, go ahead and go over Nexus and tell us about this career change.
So I went from 15 years in landscape, and then this job kind of fell into my lap, and I just applied for it. I saw it online, and it's at Nexus Outdoors. So Nexus is a parent company, and we own 5 brands in the hunting industry. We own Scentlock, Blocker Outdoors, Whitewater Fishing, 2O Gear, and Hardcore Waterfowl. So I'm basically a photo and video specialist working across those 5 brands.
So with your new position, does that add more stress to you needing to get more content?
I wouldn't say the stress of getting the content is a stressor. It's the deadlines, because deadlines can be pretty up there. I mean, we have constant turnover. We got to keep things moving and keep things fluid. I actually just got back Wednesday, first trip for work. Me and my coworker Craig Watson, we flew down to Florida to hunt Osceolas in South Central Florida.
Yeah, which took like 30 minutes.
We were there less than 10 hours. We got off the plane and passed out for an hour and a half after meeting all the guys. Everybody from Turkeys for Tomorrow had us down there, which is a really good organization. We got off the plane, got to camp around 11:30, passed out for a couple hours, and before 7:30, he had a bird dead. So we were there less than 10 hours, and we were done.
So you guys killed him right off the roost then, sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got video footage of him.
Still in the tree?
Did you get out of the tree yet, or what happened? You in the ground blind under the tree?
We were actually in a makeshift blind made out of palmettos and moss and branches and stuff like that, and we were under a live oak, just sitting there basically in the wide open. I mean, I would never turkey hunt like that up here. I mean, we were literally in the middle of a field just under a single tree.
Mm-hmm.
But we pulled up the 2-track on this property and we set everything up. And our guide, I walked out right before it broke daylight to put a GoPro out in the decoys, because I wanted to film that turkey coming in and beating the crap out of the decoy if I could get it nice and up close. And I'm like, how far do you think these birds are? Like, what direction are they going to come from? Because I don't know anything about hunting Osceolas. I've never done it before.
Right.
And he's like, well, let's find out. So he put his binoculars up against his chest, and he did his owl hoot from his mouth. And that turkey was less than 80 yards away from us, roosted up in a pine right along the edge of that field. And we drove the truck right up to where he was without bumping him. I've never seen anything like that before. It was wild. But from fly down to dead in the decoys, the elapsed time on that footage was 3 minutes and 54 seconds.
Jeez. That sounds like a Matt Hicks hunt.
That's the way we do it. We get her done.
So
I'm still 100% on turkeys. I've yet to miss one or, not get one when you go. You know what I mean? So kind of sucks because it makes the season short, because I don't go anywhere, but we don't miss.
Matt's kind of an old mouth caller himself too. He does a crow though, not the owl hooter.
can you do the crow?
Nah.
Or a mean pig. He does a mean pig.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that'll get him to gobble. My pig squeal.
All right. Well, since you have already kind of transitioned us into the turkeys, let's talk about the topic of this podcast, and that's photographing wild turkeys. So, I'm assuming you've been a turkey hunter for a good while now. Is it something that you've done as long as you've done waterfowl? Is it something that you've done? Is it the same? Is it something you've always done? I mean, when did you start turkey hunting?
I was 12 when I shot my first one. Dad took me out. I'd gone with him just to watch a few times a few years prior to that. But I always said that if I had 30 extra days, and if I were to give up waterfowl for one thing, it would be turkeys. Because I love turkey hunting. I love I love watching them. I love learning how to call them. I love the challenge of setting up, fooling him at his own game. A lot of people think turkeys are stupid birds, and they are to an extent, but they are very smart birds.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
best eyes and ears in the woods. It's a hard bird to beat at his own game.
Which you're sitting in his living room the whole time, right? That's where he lives, and you know what I mean. And if you're sitting there up against a tree, it'd be like me sitting against the wall in your living room. You're going to notice me, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. What just happened?
He got something to say.
Go ahead.
I just love the. It's like the typical Matt Hicks analogies. You drive around looking for, normally scouting geese and stuff. Well, a new restaurant might have opened up over here. You don't go to McDonald's your whole life. Burger King opens up. You're like, we gotta go check it out.
You always got to be on the new fields, man. I'm telling you.
Oh man. All right. So if none of you have seen Chris's Instagram or his social medias, we're going to put his Instagram name here in the video, but he is one of the most phenomenal turkey photographers that I have ever seen. So let's jump into that. So I guess what style changes? Like, how does your style and I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, the way that you approach photographing turkeys, how does that change from photographing waterfowl?
Believe it or not, there's not very much difference at all. So when I'm photographing waterfowl in the spring, I take decoys, I set decoy spreads, and I actually either lay in the decoys or just off of them, get as low as I can, and actually photograph and film them as they're coming into decoys. Same thing for turkeys. So my technique is I have 5 or 6 spots that I technically could hunt if I wanted to, but I save them for taking photos and video because they're those kind of gravy spots where I know there's always going to be birds there. It makes it easier. I'm not saying I like taking easy street all the time, because I'll go set up in the middle of a wood lot where I actually do hunt and find a spot where they're coming out on a field edge or something. And if I learn their routine enough, I'll do it that way. But if I feel like cheating, I mean, I've got 5 or 6 spots that just make it easy. And then I'll go out there and set decoys on it, and I'll lay down in the woods fully gillied up and have the 2 to 600 and just sit there and wait for them to come.
Yeah, that kind of brings me into the next part, which would have been the strategy for getting close enough. So when you're doing this, does it change depending on what the turkeys are doing, or are you just like, the turkeys are far into the timber, but you're hoping that they're going to come out into the open? Does it change on where the birds are as far as your strategy and setting up?
Changes daily. I mean, you got to learn their patterns. You got to learn what they do on any given day. I mean, it can change up in a heartbeat. Weather, hot, warm air versus cold air, high pressure, low pressure. I mean, all that stuff affects turkeys just like it does waterfowl, right? So it definitely can change on the daily. I never say that I will go out and know 2 days straight that I'll be having the same situation. Everything always changes. So you have to adapt to it, and you have to learn your birds and know your birds.
So when you hunt turkeys, are you are you a ground blind hunter and some decoys? Are you, because there's some guys that are no decoys and just calls, and then there's lean against a tree with a decoy. What kind of guy are you?
He's a reaper.
You a reaper?
Actually, I'm one of the most anti-reaper people on the planet. I don't partake, and I do not like it. I've been against it since it became a thing, honestly. It depends on the time of season. I mean, if it's the first couple of weeks, we're just getting into season. If I'm filming, I'm always in a ground blind, because better than anybody, Matt, how hard it is to have all that gear bagged out and actually sit still and be able to sit still, right? So if I'm solo filming and hunting, I'll be in a ground blind, decoys. But growing up, the most fun I ever had chasing turkeys. So I'm blessed to have access to, I want to say it's probably 140,000 acres worth of state and public land to be able to hunt.
Yeah.
And that's all running and gunning. So you literally pick a spot in the morning, drive up down the dirt road, get out, listen, see if a bird shocks right as it's getting daylight, or you shock one up with an owl hooter, whatever the case may be. You go in and set up on that bird. If nothing happens, then give it 45 minutes. You get back in your truck, you keep moving down to the next block and chase them all around on the state land. That's honestly my favorite kind of hunting is running and gunning.
Yeah. So like you don't like reaping for hunting, but dude, I don't know if I talked to Jake about this, but what about reaping while taking photos? I think it'd be so cool to get a gobbler all pissed off running at you, full steam ahead, whatever, and you're just right there at 10 yards just hitting the shutter button.
I feel like that would be so hard.
You think so?
Have you ever seen a turkey come to a reap? Like sometimes
On video.
it is wild. Like there's not time for anything.
Yeah, but he's got to be 50 yards and coming closer.
Oh, yeah.
There's not time to be doing that.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not saying
I'm
wait
sure
till
there
he's
is.
10 foot from you.
Oh yeah, you would
Because
definitely.
at 10 foot, I'm gonna go ahead and stand up so I don't get beat up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like I think that'd be some really cool photo
for sure.
opportunities on getting him, all upset and
Yeah.
you know what I mean, and close. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which I
know
don't
what I mean?
think
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
actually doing it. Go ahead, Zach. No, you're fine. Go.
Actually, wanted to say something. You wanted to say something.
You got to roll like a log at them.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
So
We got to tell this story. Tell the story.
All right, so we had some geese land. We were hunting like a small pond, and they landed across the way. Matt was like, "I'm gonna go get them out of here." So he goes over there, and like we can't see him. And all of a sudden, all you just like he's popping up, back down. He disappears. Another like 30 seconds, he pops up, down. Next thing we know, me and Eric are sitting in the pond, and we just see this. He's got his hand over the trigger.
I had my
holding
gun,
the gun like this.
hold my safety on, hold my trigger.
Just rolling down this hill. And the geese are just like, it must just be a log, I guess. They did not move at all.
They just looked at me like head sideways, like what?
But then he pops up all dizzy. You see him like this, falls down. Never shoots at
Is
all. The
that the new
geese,
signature move?
all the geese fly off.
The thing
Me and
is,
Eric
I
are
got close
dying.
enough. You could have shot 3 geese, but I was
Too dizzy.
too dizzy from rolling. I couldn't. I was just like, okay, can't do this. But it worked.
It was hilarious.
So okay, so back to photographing a turkey using a reap. There's one picture that I don't think that I've ever seen, and that is of a long beard sprinting toward somebody, like toward a camera.
Oh yeah, I'm talking like head on. You can see the feet.
Like you would be able to see the breast move, like everything moving, like full bore.
You see the feet hitting in the dust, and
I think that would be cool. Let's try
see
it.
what I'm saying?
Let's try it.
I want to do it.
Chris,
Photo to get.
yeah, you should do that. You should set up right behind a strutter one time.
It's just taking it to the next level, not just sitting there waiting. You know what I mean? You're, I don't know. You're the thing he's mad at. I like that. Just like that one goose shot I got. It was head on at me, hissing at me. I was like 20 yards away, and it's just like, I'm talking.
Oh
about?
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You should have said no.
Yeah, dude. I don't know.
So how far are these birds typically when you're photographing them? I mean, are you getting within 20 yards when you're photographing them, or?
15 to 25 is average when I'm getting the good photos.
And what's your setup now? Because I don't think you talked about your old setups, but we didn't talk about what you're
yeah,
currently
we didn't.
shooting.
Yeah.
What are you currently on?
So it's identical to you. I have a Sony A7R5, and then I have a FX30 that I shoot for my main body for video, and I have an A6700 that's kind of my Swiss knife backup camera if I just want to be fully hybrid.
Yeah.
And then the 200 to 600 Sony is my birding lens. And I shoot a lot of video on that lens too. It's a great video lens. And then various Tamron ones and Sigma ones for lifestyle and product photos. So
Is your 200 to 600 your like normal go-to for the birds, or are you getting close enough to where you prefer something different?
I'll always use that lens no matter what. I've never found myself strapping a 70 to 180 or 70 to 200 on. It's always the 2 to 600 on the A7R5.
So I'm sure you have a lot of cool memories and fun memories of hunting turkeys, but what's your best memory of photographing turkeys? Like, is there a day of photographing turkeys that stands out well over the others?
So I have two, if we have time for two quick ones.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So the first one, was a couple of years ago. My wife and I were still living in Zeeland, close to Lake Michigan, in our condo. And it was my birthday. It was July 1st. And we were actually going to head up to my in-laws' boat about noon, 1 o'clock. But I decided, you know what? There's baby geese everywhere. I'm just going to jump into the car and take the camera out, go see if I can get some photos. I pulled into the business district in Zeeland. There's a bunch of factories and stuff that have a lot of holding ponds. That's basically where all my town birds roost. But I pulled up and there's this company called ITW Drawform. And I'm looking and I see something along the side of the building, and it's a tom. He's up against the bushes in the window, spurring at his reflection in that building in the windows. And I pulled up the 2-600 on him and I took the photo. And that, I kid you not, that whole window, it had to have been 100 yards wide and, 5 foot tall paint glass window. It was all scratched up from that bird beating on his reflection in that window. So to add on to that, I was fixated on that. And then I turned and I noticed 2 more toms that were fighting. They were literally locked. And I have several photos of it where they just locked in beak to beak like this, and they were just pushing each other around. And that went on for over an hour. And I took photos, videos of it, and the whole thing. That one was really cool. And then the other one, I think that if we're going to call it my favorite turkey photo situation, would be last year. It was late February or early March. It was snowing. I went out to the edge of this field that I usually sit at, on and off, and there was 6 toms that were strutted up along the edge of the tree line. So I snuck out of the truck and I walked down alongside of this tall oak tree and just laid down, and the toms were sitting there just spinning around, strutting, doing their thing. All of a sudden a hen walks out of the hedge line and she looked right at the toms and kept going, and then she laid down, and I watched 4 of those 6 toms breed that one hen right there along the edge of the field. And I took photos of it. I got video footage of it. That was actually probably my favorite.
Jeez. So do you have those photos that you can send me?
Absolutely.
So when we're done here, send me those photos and I'll put them up on here. That way people can kind of see what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So
I got one, or I want to go ahead and do this one now.
Okay, here we go.
And then I've got another topic we were gonna hit.
Okay.
It's not in the show notes. But it is off the rails, but whatever. We'll get there. I'm gonna show you guys what this is all about. This is our new turkey pot call. And you get a nice box with this magnetic closure. And here it is. This is a full cast acrylic pot call. So this is same as your duck calls, your goose calls, the same material. Most people are getting it in rod form, to be able to turn your calls out of. This is custom all the way back to the acrylic guys to where we are getting this thing in sheets, so that we can do pot calls, right? And this is like, you're not going to just go and buy one of these. You can't just go buy a full cast acrylic pot call. You cannot do it. And don't get acrylic confused with hand-poured resin or aluminite, like all that crap. No, this is cast acrylic. But anyways, like, I want to talk about like a few things about it that you get with the acrylic is, this is a slate over glass, and we're going to do crystal over glass as well. But, you get the same low end, however low you want to go, you can get as far as quiet, right?
Mm-hmm.
You still get, the high tones and the low tones out of it. But not only quiet, this thing will go super freaking loud, like 5 times louder than any wood call going. Would you agree?
I agree, yeah.
And kind of the selling point on that is, a lot of guys like to carry a box call with them to cut through wind or locate a gobbler possibly, because it can reach out. It's loud. It can reach out, and get out there. You just carry this. You don't even need to. So you can literally reach out, locate him, or let him know, hey, I'm over here and he's 300 yards away, and then finish him all the way down into the decoys or, within 20 yards of you, because this thing can get quiet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool. Also a 24 karat plated gold coin in the back, just to really class it up. These things are going to be really sweet. And this is a high end deal. This isn't just a $60 pot call. This is a high end deal. And then with that, you're going to get matching strikers. So you're going to get strikers that match whatever pot call you have. So this is like a brown pearl ice. You can kind of see it. You're going to get a striker to match. And then for the actual striker tip and portion here, stroke it. Yeah, we're going to use boar wood. And the reason we've went with boar wood is the consistency of each dowel. So like it's basically pretty much the same as diamond wood. This is a man-made product, but it is wood to where each one we make is going to be as consistent as possible. We will fit each striker with each call. We will still do that, but just helps with consistency of it all. But yeah, that's pretty cool. You get it in this foam case and all that.
We should do a giveaway. First one to say how many times you stroke the striker.
Yes, I don't know. I really like it. Then you get this here, in this little compartment here, you're going to get a bag like this. This is going to have your stick, stone, sandpaper, Scotch-Brite, whatever you need to condition the call that you have. So like with slate, you're obviously not going to get the stick and stone, but with the crystal you will. But you'll get the sandpaper and all that with it. And this is, like I said, this is a high-end deal. This is not your your cherry wooden pot call or maple or walnut, that's a $3 pot to make. Like this cost us a lot of money to make, and but it's going to be worth it. I think it's really cool. Something different out there. Kind of my goal with this whole thing. I mean, look at this packaging. No clamshell. Not about that life. Our goal with it was to just do something different. We want to come into the turkey market with swinging, fist swinging on it, and not just, here's another wooden pot call.
Right.
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to come out with something different. Like you're not just gonna go buy this. You go find it. You're not, and so that's really cool. So I just want to come out with something different and all that. And we will have mouth calls coming out as well. So get ready.
Yeah, and
it'll be really cool.
If any of you have used Last Flight calls, that quality is first. So nothing leaves the shop or nothing hits the market until it has been tested over and over and over again. I mean, this has been at least a 2-month process, just trying to fine tune everything and trying to get everything dialed in.
Longer than that.
Yeah.
It's been a while. It's been a lot to figure out. It's been a lot to figure out with the acrylic because it's just it's not out there.
Right.
So,
and it's hard to, so
it seems like a lot of different materials as far as sound and soundboard and surface, you can kind of make resonate good in any type of wooden call because you see all kinds of different combinations. But with the acrylic, man, it's really, you got to be careful because it can get too tingy like. So I've had to use different combinations of sounds and surfaces, soundboards and surfaces, to so it resonated right within the pot. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's been a process, but it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, we have multiple different scratching surfaces. We've got multiple different striker material. Like the entire half of the shop is just
turkey mode.
Everything. And it's just, we spent a lot of time putting pieces together and testing and seeing how they sounded. And then we've got some individuals in the industry that are huge into turkeys that have listened to them, have used them, and then they just sound so good. And it's been crazy. And I know Matt has put a lot of time into this, but it's definitely going to be worth it.
Yeah. So just stay tuned on that one. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we can. Hopefully the next week I'll have a release date for y'all. I just don't want to put out a release date and then have to move it. So we have a couple loose ends to tie up, but
yeah.
So let's get into my next topic of how I feel like photography, and this is going to pertain to Chris too, has kind of taken over contest calling as far as when you working with a company or a brand. And, it used to be 20 years ago, if you were good at contest calling and doing that, these brands wanted to work with you. Now that's not the case, and it's more moving to, it's a digital world and social media. So the photography and the videography is kind of what I feel like has replaced that. What's your take on that, Chris?
I would fully agree with that.
Because Chris grew up contest calling and doing all that, and you've made that transition to photography, and now you've got a pretty sweet gig because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've gone so much further since I picked up a camera, and I never would have thought or dreamed that that's how it would have gone. But can't say I'm complaining about it at all.
And I think a lot of companies too are understanding that, yes, you can have people as field staff, right, that are going to talk to people.
We're going this route?
No, not that far down that route. But what I'm saying is like, companies are understanding that if they want quality content, that they're going to have to hire someone that can operate a camera to provide that. So they can have a field staff all they want, but 9 times out of 10, your pictures are going to be from an iPhone or an Android. Like, nobody's going to go through the time to pick up a camera, learn a camera, invest in the camera, invest in that lifestyle if they're not passionate about it. So for a company to be able to go to someone like you, Chris, and say, listen, you have the passion for what we're doing as far as the hunting side, but you also have the passion for the media and the content side that we can use and put together. And I think a lot of companies are understanding that they're going to have somebody like you, Chris, to be able to do this kind of stuff. Or Matt, like the companies that you're working for, still trying to work on Zach picking up a camera, but we'll get there.
Why does he need to?
He can't let go of it.
There's 3 in the gun safe.
Yeah.
I pick it up and then it's like, hang on, let me see that. Wait.
But yeah, I just think that's a big thing too, and callers and things and people that have promoted companies in the past, you're getting that, a couple times a year, at contests and things like that. But with a photographer, a videographer, a content creator that's passionate about it, that can provide the quality of work like you guys can, that's not really something that a company can go without if they plan on growing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So especially with the way that today's social media is going, there's so many people that are taking pictures, but there's only so many people that are dedicated and passionate enough to make that their lifestyle and grow with a company and help a company grow and just be on the same level.
It's definitely one of those things where you got to prove yourself
100%
before you can, you know what I mean? Before you work with the company, like you've got to go out there and, show that you can put out some quality stuff before a company wants to come along and say, hey,
right,
I like what you're doing.
Yeah.
And even magazines too, and all that, everything.
Yeah.
Everybody. But
100%.
Yeah.
So what has your transition been like, Chris, from all of this to joining Nexus? And, has it been a pretty smooth, you pretty much just doing what you've, always done? Or is there things that you had to change about your workflow? Like, how does that all went down for you?
I mean, a lot of it hasn't changed. Some of the editing stuff has changed a little bit, switching to different programs. So that's a learning curve, obviously. But I mean, I just go out and do what I've always done. Get out there, take the camera, get photos, get video clips, just do what I usually do. But now there's just the pressure that, hey, this is my career. This is what I'm getting paid to do. Yeah. And I've got to deliver constantly day out. So I mean, that pressure is always there. But I mean, I like to think I work pretty well under pressure. I mean, the Florida trip couldn't have gone any better. So
what other trips you got lined up?
Well, as of right now, we're flying out to Colorado. Not quite sure which side. We're either going to hunt Merriam's or Rios. Not sure which side of Colorado we're going to yet. Yeah. But we're flying out.
Definitely have to go Merriam's.
Oh, I hope. But we fly out middle of April, and we actually get back the day before our season opens up here. So it's literally jump off the plane, go home, say hi to the wife, unpack my stuff quick, turn around, get ready to do it again right here around home. So,
Yeah.
and then after that, I'm not sure. I don't know if we're going to take any more towards May, towards the end of season or not, but yeah, that's the schedule so far.
Okay. Well, it's getting back to the photography, and we'll be wrapping this up here shortly. But before we do, what are some tips that you would give a photographer that is wanting to get into photographing turkeys? Let's say they're not a turkey hunter, because obviously, like, as turkey hunters, we understand how to get close to the turkeys because that's just what we have to do to hunt them. But if you're just a wildlife photographer or someone that's picking up a camera that primarily photographs waterfowl and they don't do much turkey hunting, what kind of tips would you give them to get close enough to photograph these turkeys?
I mean, for me, the biggest things that I could suggest is, number one, learn the birds, watch them for a while before you go out there and try to chase them with a camera. Try to learn their routines, try to learn their tendencies, and employ the same tactics that you would for waterfowl. Because, like I said, there's really not that much difference for me. It's a lot like when I'm taking duck photos. It's basically the same thing: decoys and hide. I mean, you just got to learn the birds, got to learn their tendencies, and be able to read them, and just get out there and keep practicing. I mean, don't get down because you get out and one busts you and sees you and takes off running. I mean, there's always going to be more, but just keep practicing and just keep going. Don't sit on the couch. You can't photograph them sitting on the couch.
Right.
Be ready to fail.
Yeah.
Exactly.
With anything.
Expect and anticipate to fail before you start winning.
Man,
Yeah,
he don't talk a lot,
Zach
but
coming
man,
in with a big one right there.
he don't talk a lot, but man, when he does, nothing but wisdom. He is old.
A little long in the tooth.
Very old. Was it 38 now or something?
Yep.
But I guess that's a really good point, though, is like, even with waterfowl, like, if you go out with the expectation to get perfect shots the first time, it's just not going to happen.
You're going to be
unless you get lucky. Yeah. So it's, I mean, and there's going to be a learning curve to it, so
With everything, you got to suck for a while. It doesn't matter what it is.
Matt
you do
and I
enough,
have
you get good.
conversation over and over, right? Like we've discussed this, and we both come to agree on this. And I've talked to several other photographers, right? Because you obviously you got your hunters that turn into photographers, and then you got your bird watchers that are photographers, right? Like the guys that watch all the bird go find birds or whatever.com, like that kind of stuff. Those kind of photographers. Whenever anybody asks how I don't want to puff my chest, but how I got as good as I have with taking bird photos, especially, I always dedicate it to the fact that I'm a hunter.
Right.
I think some of the best wildlife photographers are hunters. The knowledge that you gain as a hunter is priceless when it comes to photographing wildlife.
Well, you just know their behavior more.
Yeah.
What they're going to do and when and why, and the time of year and food and time of day and just kind of all that.
Right. And I think
and you learn that as a waterfowl hunter, not only being out there on the water or field, but scouting.
Yeah.
Like just literally just every single day watching birds, pretty much.
I think you can be the best photographer in the world, but if you're not a good outdoorsman, you're not going to be able to photograph wildlife the way that, that, like you said, Chris, like that hunters can, unless they take a huge learning curve. They're just not going to understand.
Right.
So.
But I think you flip that then too, because you might, be an okay hunter. Then you pick up the camera, you're out there with them all the time. All of a sudden, bam.
For sure.
Now you're a way better hunter because you're actually with the birds all the time.
Oh yeah, you learn them because you're kind of forcing yourself in there.
Yeah.
A more fun scouting in a sense.
Zach with another one.
Is that what happened to you?
Well, I had you. I just followed you. Right?
Oh. I still can't get him to hold a camera.
And then we got our guide, so now we just don't even do nothing. Everything's leased up. We don't do nothing.
No,
Oh, God, here we go. Oh, man. All right. Do you guys have anything else for Chris? Any other questions?
I think so. Let's get him out of here. He looks tired.
Chris, you got anything for us that you want to bring up? Anything you want to talk about?
He needs a nap.
He's got bronchitis, but he ain't coughed once.
Yeah, you did. I saw him.
That's something, ain't it? He tried to cancel.
He got that elephant off his chest.
Yeah.
Hey, I do what I can for you guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
let's talk about. We got one more thing. With this turkey pot call here in the around the first weekend of April, we will be doing a giveaway between Blocker, right? Blocker giving away a chest pack, giving away some Apex ammo, and a pot call. So, pretty cool giveaway, really. I mean, everything you need to kill a turkey.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
So, probably throw in some mouth calls too, but got that coming up the first. After the first weekend of April, we'll roll that out. After this, we're doing a March Madness thing right now. So after that, we'll roll into this. So
Yeah, talk about the March Madness thing real quick. Just hit on that.
all right. I don't know. I just want to do something fun, So whoever wins it gets a free duck, goose, or turkey call. Had 145 entries into it, so that's kind of cool.
Jeez.
Yeah. Especially last minute notice. 'Cause I only put out like 2 days before. And, but yeah, just something fun to do.
Sweet.
So, but I have a bracket in there. If my bracket wins, the rule is nobody gets anything.
Oh, boy. Was that disclosed during the...
No.
All right.
If that happens, we'll just go to number 2.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
All right. Zach, you got anything you want to add?
I'm good.
You're good?
we need one more wisdom.
One more. I don't got no more wisdom.
It can be about anything, just something. There has to have been a study on something.
A study on something.
Holy smokes. Yes. Say a study.
I forget which one I sent you. It's like if you are, I was out of Star Wars basically. It was one of the films. If you are in the cold, you climb into a whale.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
And there was this dude, and he's like, and I sent it to Matt. I was like, "Is that you?"
Then he died from all the rotting gas.
Yeah, you gotta have an air hole.
We better get off this thing before it gets wild. Chris, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you. Send me those pictures. I'll throw them up on here. And then we'll talk to you some other time.
Perfect. Appreciate you guys having me.
All right. See you, buddy.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
That's what we look like.
And he is off. Okay. You guys ready to close this out? Anything we want to talk about? Are we good? Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
The show notes are empty.
I'm hungry.
Well, there's...
Took us an
I'm
hour
hungry.
and 15 minutes to even get this thing started.
That's true. Yeah, we had a bunch of issues, but all right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. We appreciate you guys more than you may know. Yes, we haven't been on the podcast every Friday like we said we wanted to do, but the shows have been crazy. We planned on doing podcasts at the shows that didn't work in Indy. We tried, and then Columbus is just crazy. So now that show season for the spring is slowing down, then we'll be doing this more often every Friday. So have different guests on. So if you guys have any suggestions on who you may want to be on the podcast, just send us a message, and then we'll see what we can do. But if everybody else is good, we're going to close this thing out.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right.
See y'all.
See ya.
Later.